Hi everyone, it's Zach Beck. Did you know that nearly 8 out of 10 Americans currently live paycheck to paycheck? And as part of that, 32% of Americans currently run out of money before the next paycheck even hits. And even part of that, 31% of Americans making over $100,000 a year currently live paycheck to paycheck. Now, there could be a variety of factors contributing to this phenomenon. Perhaps the fact that food has gone up 1.8% over the last year. In addition, education costs have gone up 2.1%. Housing costs have gone up 3.6%, and healthcare costs have gone up 4.6%. In addition, wages have not been keeping up either. Average wage growth has only been 0.2% over the last year. So it might be no wonder why we're experiencing significant financial stress here in the United States of America, with over 42% of Americans currently reporting that they are under significant financial stress. So what I want to do today is to help break that stress by breaking the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. So I'm going to share key steps that you can take right now to stop living paycheck to paycheck in order for you to achieve your financial goals. So let's jump into it right now. The first step you need to take in order to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to get on a budget. And in order to get on a budget, it's an important step that must be taken because you need to give an assignment to every single dollar that you make. And I know when you hear me say budget, you might say, well, Zach, I've heard that before, or I don't want to do it. And there could be a myriad of reasons for why that is. Perhaps you're overwhelmed with the fact that you don't want to go through the process of crunching the numbers, putting everything together. Maybe you're a bit insecure by the lack of resources that you have that can't meet your monthly bills. Whatever it is for you, I just want to encourage you to get on some form of a budget so you're giving a clear assignment for every single dollar that you make. It's clearly the best way that you can establish a proper trajectory and the best strategy that you can place in order to achieve your long-term financial goals. So whatever you need to do, there's various approaches you could take. You could simply get a pad and a pen and start writing everything down. List out every expense you have on a monthly basis. Or if you want to be a bit more sophisticated, you could actually use online applications. There are a couple that work really well. One would be Mint, another one would be EveryDollar. Whatever works for you, my encouragement is to get on a budget and set yourself up for success by having a plan. It's the only way that you can really understand what you're dealing with on a monthly basis, by having a complete picture and setting your course in the direction that you want to move forward in. The next step you want to take in order to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to get out of debt. Now, debt can be an overwhelming concept. Most of us have had debt at some point in time in our lives, whether that's through a student loan, a credit card, an auto payment, whatever it might be for you. Getting out of debt is a crucial step in order to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. That's because when you're paying high interest debt, what you're literally doing is you're giving away money. What you will find is that there's a true saying that I believe all of us should understand from a very early age in life, and that is the following. The borrower is slave to the lender. And if you're willing to take on additional money from someone else to buy something you can't afford, it's generally not a good concept. And I don't want to provide any guilt or shame to anyone who does have debt. So if you currently have significant sums of debt right now, do not be discouraged, do not be dismayed, and I'm not trying to judge you. All I want to say is that I have been there before. I have had significant sums of debt, and it really weighed me down. And it didn't allow me to move forward, not only financially, but personally. So I want to encourage you to just do everything you can to pay down your debt. There are a few different approaches that you can take. One would be the debt snowball method. This was fashioned by Dave Ramsey. What you do with the debt snowball method is you pay off your smallest debt first, you completely pay that off, then you move to your next highest debt, you pay that off, and move until you get to your highest debt and pay all of that off. And this is a slow, methodical approach, but millions of people have done it and it works quite well. Now, if you want to take a slightly different approach, you can do the debt-avalanche method. This is where you pay your highest interest debt first, and then you go down the line until you pay your lowest interest debt off completely until you're all done. So whatever approach works for you, you just have to come up with a plan and a strategy that can help you set that course. In addition, if you need assistance with that, because sometimes people prefer to have community support, there's a really neat tool out there called Financial Peace University. Once again, this is from Dave Ramsey, where you can actually attend an online course. You're able to get feedback and understanding, and you follow these 7 baby steps that actually help you get on a proper financial perspective. So whatever you do, I just encourage you, the more you can work on getting out of debt, the better it's going to position yourself long term. Because imagine for a moment that you no longer have a car payment. Imagine for a moment you don't have a credit card payment or a student loan payment. think about not how much money that is only going to bring back into your annual budget, but it's also going to give you expendable income that you can then invest into the stock market that can go and make money for you. So it's really the difference between going negative on your finances versus going positive on your finances. And I know that you can get there because I have done this before and millions of others have done it as well. So my strongest encouragement to you, get out of debt, and that will help you break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Another practical step that you and I can take in order to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to simply sell different items you might have right now. Now, this could be anything. Perhaps you have a higher end vehicle that you really cannot afford, so you might think of selling that and purchasing a less expensive vehicle that is not as expensive on a monthly or annual basis. Perhaps you have extra things lying around your house. Maybe it's old furniture, jewelry. Perhaps you had a child at one point in time and you have old child's clothes, or you have something to that extent. Whatever it is, think about trying to sell things that really do not bring current value to your life and really aren't helping you get forward financially. My wife and I went through this process where we sold different furniture, we sold different technological items, and we realized that we didn't need these extra things. And I will tell you, it was a really great experience for us because the less stuff that we had, the less clutter we had in our life, the more freedom we felt in our life as well. So not only is this helpful from a financial perspective because it can bring in additional money that helps you pay your monthly bills in a short-term basis, what it also does is it frees you up to think about living with less. And when you have less stuff, I believe you have more life. And this has a little bit to do with kind of the minimalist approach to living. And I found it to be very fruitful in our life, just the way we've approached it. And in addition, what you find is that when you have less stuff, you don't want to accrue more stuff, therefore you spend less money on things that you would normally go and buy. So it actually has a really good holistic balancing approach when you go through the process of ridding things out of your life that you no longer need, and you'd be surprised by how much money you could actually bring on yourself by selling items online. So that's a great step you can take, and it'll bring a little additional revenue to you that you can use to pay off bills, but also it's going to help change your framework and your thought process when it comes to the things that you purchase, how you actually maintain them, and how you're going to purchase things moving forward. So that's my encouragement to you. Another key step that we can take in order to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to seek out promotions and start a side hustle. And by doing this, what you're understanding is that your income is your greatest wealth building tool. And if you can augment your income by bringing in more of it on an annual basis, it provides you with additional resources that you can use to pay off your bills, but also that you can invest and have that money grow over time. Now, whatever you're doing, whatever current field you are in, try and find a way to seek out promotions by being a good steward of how you're actually currently operating in your current position, but also maybe obtaining additional education, seeking out different certifications that are specific to your field of study, and try and find ways that you can actually move up the ladder so that you can bring in additional revenue that will help you long term. I've done this personally in my own life. It's how I've actually obtained my current position. I went through the process of getting very specialized certificates that were specific to this area of study, and it allowed me to have the qualifications necessary in order to earn a six-figure income. So if you can find various ways that you can actually seek out promotions by doing the critical work necessary, talking to your supervisor, talking to your boss, perhaps you could say, if I meet a certain sales metric or if I have a certain level of performance, will you actually increase my salary? Whatever it is for you, my encouragement is that you seek out those promotions and opportunities to bring in additional revenue to your current income stream. In addition, if you can actually bring in an additional income stream, that will help out significantly. Two different approaches on that. One is you could just go and apply for a new position. Perhaps you could take on something like driving with Uber or Lyft. Maybe you could teach education online. Perhaps you could go and work a delivery service, go work at a warehouse. Whatever it is, there are plenty of options out there to bring in a little bit of additional revenue on a part-time basis for a short period of time in order to help you get whole. But that's something that you can go and do right now. In addition, if you want to be slightly more creative and actually exercise some of the gifts that you currently have, perhaps start a side hustle, whatever that looks like. Maybe you're good at photography, videography, maybe you're good at consulting, you have a certain area of expertise that you can dispose to others, and that will help you bring in additional revenue. Whatever it is for you, my encouragement is that the more income that you can bring on, the better it's going to position yourself. If you want to have other videos about the career field and how you could actually be more marketable in the marketplace, feel free to check those out. I'll actually put a link in the description for you on this one, but try and seek out promotions promotions and start a side hustle and do everything you can to generate more income. It will really set you on the right course moving forward. It's something I've personally done since I was a teenager. I've always worked multiple jobs simultaneously, and also it is beneficial not only from a monetary perspective because it allows you to bring in additional revenue, but one other thing it does, it provides you with a more holistic understanding of our economy. And when you can work in various spheres of the economy, various sectors, it really helps you to get a better understanding of the trends and where things are going, and it actually can be a bit of an invigorating experience. So my encouragement to you is to do that, try and bring in additional revenue, and it will really set you on the right course to get a more financially secure future. So try that out. An essential step you and I need to take in order to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to live below our means. And to live below our means is very critical because what we will often find ourselves doing is as we make more money, we will spend more money. This is a term that is referred to as lifestyle inflation, where you spend as much as you are bringing in. And this is very easy to fall victim to because we live in a society today where we are bombarded with information of other people and how they are living their lives. When you're looking on social media, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it might be, you see people living extravagant lives, maybe driving a nicer vehicle than yourself, living in a nicer place than yourself, going on greater vacations than yourself, and then you feel societal pressure to be able to live up to those strategies. And what you do then is you spend as much money as you're bringing in. I found myself doing this. As soon as I started making more money, I was earning over 6 figures, I started spending more money on things that maybe weren't necessary. Different clothing items, different purchases that weren't necessary, going to certain places that I really didn't need to, but I felt the societal pressure to kind of keep up with the Joneses, which is a slightly older term, but it's relevant today. And I realized that that is not the right approach to take. So what we did is my wife and I, after a year of doing that, sat down and talked and said, you know what, we are spending as much money as we made before, and now we're not able to save the money to actually achieve our bigger, longer term purchases. So what we decided to do is that we decided to live at the same level that we were doing previously to actually making this amount of money. And I will tell you, this was a game changer for us. It enabled us to not only have more money that we could save and invest that actually goes and grows exponentially in the market, what we also do is, once again, we don't find ourselves having the societal pressure to spend money to have happiness or to have joy in our lives. We just need the time together to be able to go and do things that we really love. And we do love to travel, we do love to go out to eat, but those things are more special now because we're not doing them all the time. So my encouragement to you is if you can break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, one of the critical things you can do is stop living with lifestyle inflation, and don't feel the pressure to live according to other people's means, because there might be people who you see who are driving nice cars, going on nice vacations, doing great things, and they might be deeply in debt, or they might be making a lot of money but spending all their money, and that's not going to pay off long term. So just think about that. Try and avoid lifestyle inflation by living below your means. Another step we need to take when it comes to breaking the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to cut spending. Now, cutting spending is very essential. I know I already talked previously about making a budget, securing your essentials, doing everything you can to not have unnecessary expenses, but when you re-examine your budget and you look at certain areas that you might have right now that you don't even think about that you're paying for on a monthly basis, it really helps and adds up over time. I think about it like this. We live in a very interesting economic climate right now where the subscription model has become very popular, whether that's with Netflix, Hulu, maybe you get a meal delivery service or something to that extent. But if you can find a way to analyze what you're currently spending on monthly expenses, specifically with your subscriptions, and try and cut those out if they're not necessary, that will really help and will add to your greater budget that you can use to pay down debt and do everything you can to achieve your long-term financial goals. Now, I'm not disparaging anyone who likes to watch Netflix or Hulu or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I have those different accounts myself. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, those might not be in the necessary category. So if you look at things in your budget and you think what is necessary versus what is something that's nice to have, try and focus on the necessary first, cut out the things that are nice to have or that you want to have right now, and realize that this is, once again, a temporary situation that you're going to be able to overcome later on down the road. So go forward and cut spending where you can, realizing that you're doing so that way you can spend more extravagantly later on down the road because you'll have money to do so. An important step you want to take to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to save up for big purchases. Now, you might have something you want right now, perhaps a nicer pair of shoes, a technological device, or something to that extent. And think about it this way: if it's over $100, try and sit on it for 24 hours before making the purchase, especially if you're in an environment right now where you're living paycheck to paycheck. So if you have something that you want that's over $100, try and do something like this: budget for it. budget on a weekly or monthly basis and say, okay, if it costs $100, I'm going to save $25 a week for the next 4 weeks, and then I'll be able to purchase it. In addition, if it costs a little bit more, do the same, just budget accordingly. I have done this personally in my life, and I found it to be very fruitful, because when you have the chance to step back and think before you actually make big expenditures, then you're able to make wiser decisions, because we live in a very impulsive society. We're being bombarded with information on social media where we're having advertisements coming directly to our phones and that are tailored specific to our desires. And if we make quick impulse decisions, unfortunately, we're not going to get a lot of joy out of that, and actually it sometimes continues to put us in a negative financial trajectory. So just take your time when it comes to making big purchases. I'm not saying to not do those. If it's something you really like, if it's going to bring value to your life, heck yeah, go for it. But what you want to do is you want to budget for it, so that way when you make that expense, you don't have any guilt associated with it. You actually have more joy and you feel really good about it, because you took the time, you analyzed the purchase, and you realized this is what I want, and I'm going to do the work necessary to budget for it and save for it, and then you can do it and you feel great once you've made that purchase. So that's my encouragement to you, is to save for bigger purchases. Now, a critical step that all of us need to take when it comes to breaking the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is to save up for an emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund is basically enough money that you have to be able to pay for some of your monthly expenses if something out of the ordinary happens. And my encouragement is to start with saving $1,000. Now, right now, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you might be saying to yourself, well, Zach, $1,000 is a lot of money. And yes, it is, but if you can work towards that goal in the same way that you're saving for bigger purchases, you want to save up that $1,000 first. That way, in case something happens, an emergency occurs, you can go and use that money. Now, this is not money that should be used for purchases like going out to eat or going for a vacation or anything to that extent. It's just simply $1,000 that is sitting there in case of an emergency. If you lose your job, if someone gets ill, if something happens, you have that money sitting there. So if you take the steps necessary to continue to set aside money, maybe it's $10 a week, whatever you need to do, just do it right now, because that's going to secure yourself and put you in a position where you have a little bit of cushion in case something happens, because that's one of the stressors associated with living paycheck to paycheck, is having no cushion at all. So if you can start setting aside a little bit by cutting your spending, getting on a budget, paying down your debt, have a little bit of that extra money left over, set it aside in an emergency fund, and I will tell you, it'll make you feel so much more confident moving forward, not just from a financial state of mind, just from a personal state of mind. You'll have more peace associated with that. All right, so after you've taken the necessary steps to get on a budget, pay down your debt, secure your essentials, and do everything you can to cut the spending that's unnecessary in your life and avoid lifestyle inflation, what you want to then focus on is actually saving and investing for your future by planning for your future. Now, there are various approaches that you can take, and when you hear the word invest, you might think, well, this might be something speculative, or it's a little bit scary. I might need to live on Wall Street in order to do so. All I can say is, when it comes to investing, invest in things that you understand and invest in things that are very simple with a proven track record. So the first thing you want to do is you want to establish retirement accounts for yourself. One being a Roth IRA, another being a 401k. Now, there's simple differences between the two. I have another video about that. I'll put a link in the description for you. But basically, a Roth IRA is an individual retirement account, and you can put money into that up to $6,000 per year on an annual basis. And then with a 401k, that is an employer-based retirement account where you can put up to $19,500 a year. And what you're doing with these two different accounts is you're investing money through those accounts into the stock market. Now, the bigger thing is, once you invest in the stock market, trying to select things that are actually going to be feasible for you, that have a proven track record. I personally like to use what are called index funds. Now, there are various approaches you can take, but what an index fund is basically an index that tracks the entire stock market, or something like the S&P 500. And what you're doing is you're going to go forward and invest in the entire stock market, and instead of trying to pick specific companies. This is a proven historical track record of yielding about 7% on an average basis when you have your dividends reinvested and you adjust it for inflation. So my encouragement is to try and focus on doing that. So through your Roth IRA and through your 401k, investing in what are called index funds. And then you'll find yourself, once you're able to retire, to have money grow over time, because it's yielding compound interest, and that will actually secure your financial future. In addition, if you want to take a little bit bigger of a risk, instead of trying to get 7%, maybe you want to seek something a little bit higher, you can go for individual stocks. It just requires a lot more specialized skill, understanding, and knowledge. And there are two different platforms that you can use for this. One that I found to be pretty fruitful in my life is WeBull. I put a link in the description for you, and if you invest up to $100, I believe they'll give you 2 free stocks, one valued up to $1,400, so you can do that if you want to try it out. Another one is Robinhood. I put another link in the description for you there, and I believe if you select that, you can get a free stock associated with it. So try those out if you want, and maybe on a little basis, but your bigger investments should be into your retirement accounts, into index funds. If you select individual stocks, realizing there's a lot of risk associated with that, but with risk comes reward. Now, when you're thinking about investing, really take your time, but most importantly, you just want to be consistent. Don't be too concerned about what specific company, what specific index. Really try and find something that you can do where you're just contributing on a monthly, weekly basis, perhaps making sure that you're accruing enough over time on a monthly basis where that money will grow over time. This is what is called dollar cost averaging. You're not trying to time the market, because there's a saying that I believe is very important. Time in the market is better than trying to time the market. So just go for it, try it out, invest, and that will actually help you to build and accrue wealth over time. So my encouragement to you is, if you want to try any of these things out, do it with as much confidence as you can, do as much research as you can, realizing this is not specifically financial or investment advice for myself. I'm just telling you the strategies that I've used, and they've worked quite well. So do everything once you've gotten out of the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck to then invest in your future. So with all that being said, I really want to thank you for taking the time to watch the video today. If you wouldn't mind, feel free to like the video. It would actually really help me out for the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully push this video to other people who might need to hear a message like this. In addition, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to answer any of your questions, give you feedback, and try and do anything I can to help you. And if you want to learn more about what's going on with my channel, feel free to subscribe. It would actually mean a lot to myself, and I'd love to be able to have you watch additional content that I produce, because the entire purpose and intention with this channel is to try and make a positive impact in the lives of others by sharing information I have learned over time from working in the public, private, nonprofit sectors of the economy, and really just trying to do everything I can to help others. So feel free to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Once again, I really want to thank you for taking time to watch the video. And until next time, I hope you have a great day.